Here are a few reasons why you should be talking about food poisoning symptoms. Food poisoning symptoms are caused by a large number of bacteria, but the most common include E. coli 0157, Staphylococcus aureus, Salmonella enteritis, Listeria monocytogenes, Clostridium species, and Campylobacter species. Each of these types of bacteria can cause what is commonly known as food poisoning symptoms and are similar in the ways that they cause foodborne illness. Food poisoning symptoms can be defined as an illness caused by consuming food or drink that has been contaminated, causing nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Food poisoning symptoms can be mild with a runny tummy to severe dehydration causing hospitalizations. Exposure to toxins from bacteria in severe cases can cause death. The recent listeriosis outbreak in South Africa, which is the largest outbreak in the world to date, is a perfect example of this. There are three sources in food that can cause contamination. Physical, which means rust, paint, glass and wood. Chemical, which is non-food safe chemicals such as bleach, high concentrations of chlorine or ammonia. And biological, which is bacteria, molds, viruses and pests. These sources of contamination can be introduced into the kitchen by unsafe practices in the kitchen itself or during production or manufacturing processes. Testing for food poisoning. If your illness is severe or complicated, your doctor may run some of the following tests. Stool tests are a common lab test done for food poisoning. A medical doctor may order one if you have a fever or abdominal pain. A sample of your stool can help test if the illness is related to the bacteria, and blood samples are also tested and can be used to identify the exact bacteria causing the illness. These can be genotyped using whole genome sequencing. The recent listeriosis outbreak in South Africa shows how effective these tests can actually be. So how common are food-related illnesses and food poisoning symptoms? The World Health Organization says that 1 in 10 people worldwide fall sick from food poisoning. Within that, 10%, 420,000 people worldwide, incur severe infections or complications from food poisoning and die as a result of food poisoning each year. In 2007, the FSA estimates that there are around 850,000 cases of food poisoning each year in the UK, and estimates that 500 deaths occur as a result of this in the UK each year. Food poisoning illness, better known as the dreaded food poisoning, causes almost 50 million illnesses and 3,000 deaths annually in the United States. According to the Centers for Disease Control of America, foodborne illnesses, better known as food poisoning, is a common, costly yet preventable public health problem. The impact of food poisoning is not only health related, but also affects the economy through the loss of production time, in other words sick leave, the impact on the healthcare system, as well as the loss of revenue of food businesses which have either caused food poisoning or unintentionally caused this through negligence. There are roughly 200 different foodborne diseases caused by a number of different bacteria. These diseases have a variety of symptoms, but there is not one condition that is known to be the defining factor of foodborne illness, especially when you consider that many hospitalization cases actually occur as a result of dehydration rather than physical poisoning. The symptoms of food poisoning depend on the type of contaminant and the amount eaten. So food poisoning can develop rapidly within 6 hours or slightly worsening over a few days. Most of the common contaminants cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal cramping. Usually food poisoning is not serious, and then the illness runs its course within 24 to 48 hours. However, food poisoning can happen within 6 hours in serious cases, otherwise usually up to 24 hours. Raw foods of animal origins are most likely causes of contamination, such as raw meats and poultry, raw eggs, unpasteurized milk, and raw shellfish. If we consider today's manufacturing processes, a single hamburger may contain meat from 100 different animals. A glass of raw milk may contain milk from several hundreds of cows, thus the potential for food poisoning is quite high when you look at these figures. Raw fruits and vegetables are of particular concern. However, washing can decrease but not ultimately eliminate contamination. A number of outbreaks have been traced to fresh fruits and vegetables that were produced under less than sanitary conditions, especially in European countries such as Germany and Spain. These outbreaks show that the quality of water used for washing and chilling procedures after harvesting is absolutely critical. Using water that is not clean can contaminate many boxes of produce. Fresh manure used to fertilize vegetables can also be a contaminant. This is also an important factor in considering how the organic farming industry has changed. As we already mentioned, E. coli occurs naturally in the guts of animals. Raw milk and unpasteurized fresh juice also has been shown to be contaminants of pathogens. This also includes the juices made from these fruits. Many foodborne microbes are present in healthy animals and can exist within their intestines. However, meat and poultry carcasses can become contaminated during the slaughtering process by coming into contact with small amounts of intestinal contents. Certain types of salmonella can infect a hen's ovaries, so that the internal contents of a normal egg can be contaminated with salmonella even without breaking the shell. Oysters and other filter-feeding shellfish can concentrate a bacterium called Vibrio that is naturally occurring in seawater. Similarly, fruits and vegetables can be contaminated if they are washed and irrigated with water that is contaminated with animal urine or human sewage. How to treat food poisoning. Let's take a look at nausea and vomiting. Avoid solid foods until vomiting ends. Eat light, bland foods. Toast is usually the best. Sip liquids to prevent vomiting. Don't eat fried, greasy, or spicy foods. In terms of dehydration, drink clear liquids, starting with small sips and gradually drinking more. If vomiting and diarrhea last more than a day, drink a rehydration solution. So when to call a doctor? Call a doctor immediately if symptoms last more than 3 days, or if you have severe belly pain, fever, bloody diarrhea or dark stools, vomiting that is prolonged or bloody, signs of dehydration such as dry mouth, decreased urination, dizziness, fatigue, or increased heart rate or breathing rates.